Welcome back from the break. We will now come to our last panel entitled Across the Borders, Tackling Brain Drain. Across the Borders, Actions Tackling Brain Drain. Susanne Feil, head of the Resources Innovation Center, Leoben and the Universität Leoben will now chair this panel. Susanne, the floor is yours. Please introduce us to your speakers.
Very warm welcome to the fourth dialogue panel session that we have at this conference. Thank you, Anna. She already introduced me. My name is Susanne Feil, and I'm head of the Resources Innovation Center. I'm very glad to be leading through this panel, Actions Tackling Brain Drain, because actions are a very crucial thing if we want to change realities. And so action is what we're going to talk about. We have learned in the past sessions that actions can make a difference, be it the creation of communities. Oh, I was told to use the microphone. It's better. My bad. I'm sorry. So we have learned that actions can actually make a difference, be it the creation of communities, ecosystems, projects, initiatives, new narratives, be it what it may be, but it's actions, bottom-up actions foremost, that are very important. And this is something that the EIT raw materials and the EIT philosophy is all about, creating actions through integration of the knowledge triangle, research, innovation, education. We have also learned in the past sessions, however, that there is little policy action on the local level, and this is because there is a lack of data, a giant lack of data that concerns the situation, which results in an inability really to build up relevant knowledge to tackle the topic of brain drain. For this reason, the aim of this session is to highlight how concrete action can be of added value for the region and why it is so important. We have the honor to welcome here dialogue guests that have extensive experience in each of these spheres that cover the knowledge triangle, research, education, and innovation. And they will tell us from their perspective how they tackle action in relation to brain drain, or how their action affects brain drain. So let me therefore welcome, for the innovation perspective, Mr. Milan Veselinov. He is founder and CEO of the startup CirEkon in Serbia, and a circular economy consultant. And he, according to himself, I think I did a little research on him, he is living the circular economy. I'm very excited to hear about that. Also for the innovation perspective, we have Mr. Ion-Gheorghe Petrovai, if that is correct from my side. For the research and education, good, perfect. For the research and education perspective, we have Mr. Florian Bieber, who is professor of Southeast European History and Politics and director of the Center for Southeast European Studies at the University in Graz. For the policy perspective, we have Mr. Sinisa Marcić, who is expert on human capital development at the Regional Cooperation Council in Bosnia. And last but not least, for the policy perspective, we have Mr. Bernhard Fabianek, who is senior expert at the Horizon Europe Association in the European Commission. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining this council. It's this council. See, I'm stuck in your council, Mr. Fabianek, for joining this panel. I think it's a very interesting panel. All of you have very interesting perspectives on the topic. And I would like to give now each of you some room. I would like to give you the floor to introduce yourselves, to tell the audience about yourselves, your story, and the relevance of your experience and your institutions for taking action in the ESEE region, for building communities, ecosystems, projects, initiatives, new narratives to tackle brain drain. Please, because we only have 60 minutes, and I think I already used up 10 of them, or 5, or I don't know. Try to be concise, because we would like to also have a little bit of discussion room left at the end of the session. So we are going to start with Mr. Veselinov. Please
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Thank you. Good. Now I have the option to share the screen. That's a good one. Well, if we don't have brain left in our country, that's my first remark. I'm in a big problem because there will be no people left to work on something that I've started, which is transferring to circular economy to Serbia actually and beyond. First of all, there is a question. Can you see my screen? Yes?
Yes. Yes.
That's good. All right. So I'll, in brief, 5 to 7, maybe 8-ish minutes, I'll try to cover the story about brain drain, but tackling from the perspective of how actually European Union helps to this in regards to putting international novel initiatives, and that's the word action we were also searching for, not really data. My story comes from the action point to boost local opportunities, right? So a little bit about me. It's enough that it was already said. And the story came when I met many opportunities in Serbia to boost my career, but I actually decided to stop it and turn away and do something that is sensible and logical to my side, which is commit to sustainable business development, which at that time I didn't have opportunity to learn about in Serbia. So I put all my horses into one direction and to search in what kind of education could give me that opportunity. Finalized these industrial ecology studies in Holland, actually in the Netherlands and Austria, and since then created a mission to actually realize that this is something that is coming, and Serbia is widely unprepared for this wave. And then started to talk and think about how should I implement this new knowledge and this new trend back into Serbia, be that in people or in business from the business perspective. So I came back 2017, and since then did a couple of, I would say, okay things, if not with a bigger impact. Basically, the screen that you have in front of you is showing that in front of Serbia are really two ways, be that in circular economy or be that in human capital. Why am I saying this? Let's delve here for a couple of seconds. I'll be just silent and let you read this one. So, we are in a trouble. That's the fact. Why? And it's just a short snapshot of what's happening in Serbia. We had 3 different time-wise and reason-wise, not economic, but brain drain crisis. One was past 30 years already, even maybe a little bit before, economic migration. And then people realized, okay, there are better conditions somewhere else. And then we had worker migration or worker crisis, which is happening already also now. And then now we are facing something that is really highly unwelcome in this region, which is not only workers, but highly skilled people that should lead the country and lead the nation, lead other people, are leaving the country. 79% of these are leaving to European Union as a closest market and highly valued market. And the estimations were that per year we were losing until 2015, 37,000. Now it's going, the numbers are rising. It's a tremendously bad situation for the coming generations here in Serbia. And estimated economic loss for this is 3.4 to 4.6 billion euros per year because of that. So basically what we're doing, we're educating people, we're losing funds to educate them, nurturing people and you know, shaping the knowledge around this for 25 years, and then we're in a split of a second losing this capacity. So basically we're a training ground for some other markets, and that's something that I realized had to stop. So what is the reason for this? A major mismatch in education. What we're doing, we're educating people for all professions that are going to be dearly missed, but we're not going in line with time. And that's why I turned back, I actually returned back from from Austria and the Netherlands try to create new opportunities, because circular economy is really something that will come, and many of us do not recognize it here still. It produces further youth unemployment, a major risk. So basically what we do have is older generation working, younger generation that are full of capacity is not working. And with this, we have, it's kind of a cause and effect thing, it's cultural erosion. With this, and basically only trying to seek for better cases, which further produce all the vicious cycles that are going on. Some would say cultural erosion. I would really say cultural landslide, which you can see on the right side of the picture, which is not good. So that's why I say, if people go from here, then I'm in trouble, and then consecutively I will need to go because I don't have anyone to work with. All these bright brains that are still here. What I did is in 2015, I managed to create some very complex analysis on how to implement circular economy and on the top of every, you could see building capacity, and that's my start. I came back with a goal to build the capacity around implementation, knowledge, and innovation on circular economy, trying to create small teams and create movements around how to raise the capacity of people that are decision makers, but also implementers in domain of novel circular economy, in order to stay and create new business opportunities, but that force then again creating new job opportunities, and then raising the value of that kind of innovation, as well as then putting this value into faculties and further education. So my first and foremost thing is education about novel points, or novel, or let's call it innovation in this sense. So in these 4 years, I've created pretty much 4 brands. One is CirEkon, that I represent right now, which is a small company that is highly specialized in implementing and business training of circular economy, and has a goal to catalyze circular economy, novel circular economy, innovative circular economy into business area. We have hurdles, we have successes, of course. It's fair to say we're going step by step. The other one is UNVESO, which is United for Better Society, which is an NGO that has a goal to raise the awareness about sustainability or sustainable citizenship, and integrate the local government policies and citizens' engagement, and in that sense, again, open spaces to open jobs, local jobs. So this is very much focusing on local migration and trying to keep people in the cities they are, and raise the capacities there. The third one is Academy for Circular Economy, which is the broad program for education. Why did I see the need to create this? Is because the unification around understanding of circular economy was missing, so we had to create a single program, a unified program that will transmit the similar or one unified message around circular economy. And the currently very active project, which was a result of cooperation between 6 international partners and AIT Climate KIC, is Circular Economy Beacons. What we try here is to lower the barriers between Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, and then Germany and Spain, lower the barriers of lack of knowledge, lower the cost of constant need to engage with foreign experts, and create the knowledge and create expertise in local basis. By connecting all these expertise between countries, we do reduce costs, and at the same time, we do catalyze and speed up development. And in only 4 months, we have managed to pull the regionally content, the framework for implementation of circular economy, create a couple of trainers, connected with many stakeholders. I think it's more than 400 active and potentially active users of this network. And this is how we intend to create a positive, knowledge-based, experience-based, and skills-based network between the countries around Balkan Peninsula, so West Balkan, West Balkan 6 also countries. The goal for the next couple of years is to spread the impact, the positive impact, and the next year we want to we would like to welcome more partners from. Now we're having intensive conversations with partners from Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and North Macedonia. So in this kind of ecosystem and knowledge-based environment, we are trying to create local initiatives for a truly innovative circular economy. I don't want to spend any more time talking about model of it, but you can see that in the center, it's uniform knowledge, then it's network creation, and we're constantly pinging the market to see what our market needs and to modify the services around us. Then at the end, what comes last, but it is actually most important for this call, is innovation opportunities and entrepreneurship support, which will come definitely in 3 to 5 years, not now, but we're going for that goal. I don't know if I breached the time or if I have more.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for this really interesting contribution of yours. I have a direct follow-up question, if I may. You're a typical candidate through your educational path that could have fallen victim of, not returning to your home country. Although you did your original studies in Serbia, you added a lot of studies abroad, which could have led to your staying there. What made you return? Now, you said you wanted to commit to sustainable development and you wanted to create new opportunities, but that's very noble. Is the noble cause what made you return? I mean, you could have had it probably easier, question mark, provocative
True.
question mark.
Completely right, and I don't know if that's my psyche that I always try to find a harder way to succeed. So I abandoned 3 times successful career and pivoted around this. So maybe that's the thing. I wouldn't say well, noble or not. I would mainly say it's maybe because of my internal way of thinking. But yeah, the real opportunity and the real risk that I saw and that I found that I could be maybe at that point, maybe now I'm completely sure that I can, so that I may be able to help, is that I return and actually spread this knowledge. So and it's not really easy. It's as you said, it could have been easier because people do not understand here many things that I'm trying to convey, and I have to explain myself and the trends over and over and over again. But at the moment that I see the impact that it is creating, and I can say that now also Serbia has changed the path on developing circular economy from purely waste management to putting this into an industrial strategy and putting business and industrial focus on this, is because greatly because Academy of Circular Economy, because we blended many types of actors that educate them about what truly circular economy effect is, what is the positive impact of this, not trying to silo approaches and everyone and letting everyone take their own point of view and therefore have a huge mishmash of different policies and different opportunities that are not synchronized. So yeah, a little bit longer answer, but maybe it's a bit of a craziness, not about nobleness.
I think it's the noble cause inside you that made you come back and fight for your home country. That's good. I like that. Thank you very much. We're going to go on to our next speaker, Mr. Petrovai. He is the EIT Health Risk Innovation Hub Manager since 2018, but also is here for his project management in founding of the startup FreshBlood. So you see it's all in the health sector and not the raw material sector. However, I think in terms of innovation and brain drain, there is cross-sectorial connections that are important to be taken into consideration. So thank you very much for being here and contributing. The floor is yours now.
Thank you very much. Can everybody see my screen, my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the invitation. Hello to everybody. It's an opportunity to share a little bit of our thinking and about our activities so far. I'm a medical doctor, so like everything, I'm treating pretty much everything like a disease. So the first thing, we need to have a diagnostic. And the diagnostic here is quite clear. We are in a place where innovation, hence, it still needs a lot to has a lot of room to grow. How do we put it like this? And at the same time, most of you probably know Transylvania. I hope you had the chance to come. If not, when this will be a part of the habits, you have the chance to come. It's a region of Romania which is very multicultural. For example, the name of our city, where I'm speaking from Cluj-Napoca, is a different name in different languages. Actually, we have even the Napoca is the old Latin name. We have a lot of things happening. Romania moved to communist, like many other from communism in the last 30 years. And the biggest asset that we have is the brain. So we have the best university in Romania. We have the best medical university in Romania. We have two of the top universities, technical and agronomical in Romania. So we have some assets. The challenge is how can we use it and how can we actually provide the proper context to grow. So I will talk about my field. I'm a medical doctor. We have lost a lot of medical doctors so far after the 1989. We have lost at the same time a lot of IT guys. And I'm talking lost, not necessarily physically, but when 80% of the workforce is working for outsourcing, basically they are working for a job, but they're not creating the value that will stay in the ecosystem. And at the same time, they are mostly working for external customers. So they might spend their money in our country, but in most of the situation, the decisions for their employment and for their project would not be in the ecosystem. So how can you handle this? Our choice, and one of my hats is I'm a teaching person. I come from a family of teachers. I like to focus where things can actually be influenced. It's the older the people get, less flexible they are. So we chose to go focus on the students and PhD, and to teach them things to negotiate, sell themselves, increase their market value, and actually to build something. Personally, I have 15 years of corporates in the healthcare field. And I believe I discovered 5 years ago that the startup mindset is a way to create and to grow your value as an individual. And this will help you actually build your life wherever you choose and not to be influenced by the different trends. So at the same time, the trend that was seen by us is that in the last 5 years, there is an opening towards innovation, not only at the society level, because everybody sees what is happening in the world, but also at the institutional level. So you have universities connected with hackathons, you have tech transfer offices established. We have last year OECD AHA Innovate 2019 report. We had yesterday a session focused on this, and actually people begin to believe. We have at the same time established the student entrepreneurial societies, and with the programs for scientists in the last 4 years, it's organized in the universities. Universities are trying to do a good job for this, but they need a lot of support, and we can provide this support coming from outside of the university. And hence, this is how FreshBlood appeared. Our focus has been since the very beginning to help the innovators, to help the organizations that aim to support innovators, because you have a lot of innovators and a lot of people that might be tempted to move anywhere else in the Europe or in the world, because especially the IT guys are extremely flexible in terms of mindset. They can work from anywhere, and but they will not work with anybody. So that's the challenge. We need to put the where and the who at the same time in the same space. And at the same time, we became the ecosystem player and supporter and contributor. So I don't know how many of you have seen. okay, I'm active in healthcare innovation. I think healthcare innovation is the most difficult field to work in innovation because everybody is having an interest. Everybody has their own agenda, and everybody is saying that what the others are saying that the others should listen. I used to say in many situations that it's pretty much like Dr. House. Dr. House, you probably know, says everybody lies in healthcare. So whatever happens at the table, it's with a visible and with a hidden agenda. But we can actually move this system, and we can already see the acceleration of the collaboration in this system. We are a small player, but we try to move the wheel. And we chose to go to the universities, and we have the chance. A number of chances. This guy is the mayor of Cluj-Napoca. Actually, he has just been re-elected 75% first round, I think 1 month ago, something like this. But he's not focusing on being re-elected. He's focusing on building the people. And he's saying all the time that Cluj should be based on talents, technology, trust, and tolerance. And it's about the talents, and it's about what you give to these talents to grow, especially because we have at the same time a lot of ego. And we know, especially in healthcare, ego is very, very powerful. So in this context, we have seen that people build too many walls and not enough bridges. And we are constantly looking for a bridge. And I'm trying to build a bridge, being with you here today at this conference, because it's a bridge goes two ways. I can come to you, but you can also come to us. And now with online, it can happen really, really, really fast. So what we did after 2016, we started by building the people. And building the people is, first of all, connecting to the resources. And EIT Health has been for us a great resource to educate and to develop our people. In the first picture, we had one. In the picture on the left, you have the 8 people from Romania that were part of the Starship. So we have people trained that have a different mindset and different level of competence. Another opportunity was to build a connection that we have with TU Delft. It's a program where we are more mentored by Technical University Delft, which is one of the top universities, not only in Netherlands, but globally in terms of innovation, also in healthcare. And we brought the startups at the university. On the right side, it's the Medical University in Cluj, which is quite powerful and quite... just to give you an idea, they have, I think, almost 2,000 foreign students. So actually, you have brain training in Romania. Cluj University has French and English lines as well. So we bring the startups and we constantly push them to think a little bit innovatively. And at the same time, we have to build these bridges, and we are mixing the university stuff. The 4 universities in Cluj are competing. That's natural. But at the same time, we are trying to build in the collaboration. Part of this initiative, GPI, Inter-University Group for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. This is where we mix the staff in university that are in charge of innovation. And on the bottom, we mix the students in order to help them to think innovatively and to create value, because that's the biggest challenge. And the results are already visible. We have seen, for example, an increase of the resources that we have been able to bring into the ecosystem. Might not be a lot, but for us, it's huge in terms of change. So we had 2019 170 plus K euro. This year we had 450 plus K euro. We'll see how the next year is looking, because we need to be adapted. But at the same time, with the resources and with the results comes the recognition. So Cluj was a finalist at the European Capital of Innovation Awards. According to my knowledge, it was the only one from Eastern Europe or from the New Europe attending. Even trying to compete with Leuven or with Valencia or Vienna was an achievement to be on the same list. We did not win, but to be honest, it's very hard to beat Leuven. Leuven got won this year, but even it allowed us, first of all, to get together and to put together all our resources in order to grow the ecosystem. What next? There will be money. Government is setting up a program for student-driven innovation grants. You can understand up to 100K euro. It will be run by universities, but now we are connected with all universities in order to encourage them to build projects that will be related to the real life and that would be able to keep the people in Romania and build their own projects and their own life here. So, as a conclusion, our vision is that through healthcare innovation, we can provide to the top talents the opportunities, the reasons, and the resources to stay. And very important, the ecosystem evolution matters a lot because people are not only living in their job, they are living in their ecosystem or in their life. And that's another story, not part of my activity, but Cluj is considered to be the best quality of life in Romania. More than 90% people happy to live in Cluj. Thank you very much. That was my intervention.
Thank you very much. This was also a very insightful contribution that I would like to also follow up with a question. Now, in Cluj, you seem to be having a very positive development, and everyone seems to be very motivated, and this is rewarded officially. What about the rest of Romania? How is the rest of Romania doing in terms of innovation? And are you also planning on transferring your experience to the rest of the country?
Well, I would say that, first of all, I'm not, Cluj is the easy place. For example, Cluj is a city where people from the rest of Romania are coming. So we have internal brain drain as well at Romania level. We are focused, for example, at FreshBlood to help the people all over Romania with their projects. It's sort of a natural approach. I'm not saying that people should come to Cluj to develop their projects, but it's important to have a place where they can actually connect physically and then culturally. Romania has some gaps. Let's be honest. Bucharest is quite well positioned in front. Cluj is trying to catch up, but we are not playing catch up with Bucharest. We are playing actually building on our capabilities and on the opportunities. So that's the game where we are in, and we are also very much open to share. So I'm coming from a conference before this one where we discussed the healthcare strategy for Romania, and it was a national strategy. So it's about providing everybody what they need in terms of growing their impact and the results. I wouldn't say that we will be Cluj-centric. It would be easy to say, yeah, we're Cluj-centric, but it was a natural approach to be city-centric where you were focused on physical communication. But now, for example, the Innovaton, we had this Innovation Day, EIT Health, last weekend, and we had participants from all over Romania, not only from Cluj. So at the same time, the pandemic is limiting our physical presence, but extending our online presence. So that would be the answer. We are looking to help the people that want to be helped. That would be the general, wherever they are. You can also come to Cluj.
Thank you. I'll take you up on that offer because you were talking about building bridges, which I really like. It's actually the motto of our conference. So we're in the right place. We're coming to see you after the pandemic. Thank you very much for your contribution. Our next guest is Mr. Florian Bieber. He is as I said before, professor of Southeast European History and Politics and the director of the Center for Southeast European Studies at the University in Graz in Austria, the university which has a very strong strategic focus towards the region. And I would like to give him the floor now to tell us what he does and how this contributes to action. Thank you very much, Mr. Bieber.
Thanks, and thanks a lot for having me. Well, I'll try to do both. I'll try to give a bit of analysis and also maybe talk a little bit what we're doing in Graz and at our center. I mean, I think I want to take a step back, and again, I agree very much with the previous speakers. A medical assessment of a diagnosis before offering a cure. Although I'm a social scientist and a historian, it's a different approach. But we all have to first identify the problem, and I think it's important to note, I mean, I'm mostly, and we're working mostly with what is known as the Western Balkans, the countries which are not in the European Union. And although there are structural similarities to Romania or to Bulgaria, and to some of the reasons why lots of people have left and moved out of those countries, there are also a couple of differences. And I think I want to first of all point out that, we often focus on salary and opportunities as one reason why people leave and what is that needed to be offered for people to come back. But I think there are a couple of other challenges which are, in addition, at play in the Western Balkans. I mean, one is, of course, corruption. And I often, when talking to former students of mine, colleagues who are either leaving the Western Balkans or are thinking of leaving, or who are students in Graz and are considering their choices at the end of graduation, this is one of the key points which comes up. And it's not so much just the corruption as something which happens, but it's something as an obstacle to careers. So there are two elements to it. First of all, a lot of people say, well, we have to join a political party career. And we don't want to join a political party. We don't want to be joining a party just for the sake of making an academic or professional career. We don't want to be paying bribes all the time. So it's this sense of not advancing based on merit, but advancing based on favoritism and nepotism. Especially for people who are highly motivated to return. And here I'm talking, of course, mostly about people returning not to the private sector, but to the public sector, to higher education, or to the public administration. And this is, of course, closely linked to the question of state capture. So the idea that states in the region are often suffering from what the European Commission has called state capture, namely that institutions are not working for the common good, but for the interests of often a very narrow elite. And this is, of course, for those who are well educated, those who are well trained, a discouragement. And then the third point of why people are leaving and why it might be hard to get them to come back is in the region, a sense of isolation. So the fact that unlike other countries from the European Union, like Romania or Bulgaria or Croatia now, you cannot move professionally as easily in the European Union. It's become easier, but it's still not unrestricted. So the sense of isolation often makes people actually more, in a certain way, believe that this is a higher stake about leaving. And then there's connections also to the greater worry about the future. There are certain kind of uncertainties in that part of Europe which are so much present in the European Union. In Bosnia-Herzegovina, for example, many citizens are deeply worried about the future of the country, whether it will survive, whether there are future conflicts. And having experienced a war in living memory for many means that these are serious concerns and motivators. So just to kind of leave it at that, but saying like, to tackle the challenges of how to encourage people to move back and to build their careers, they're not. It's not just about the right salary. It's a broader problem one needs to tackle. So what is essential? And I think one thing which is essential are what I would call reform partnerships, namely partnerships between different institutions and actors. And we think we've heard this in the previous presentation, that Cluj is a nice example of that. And I remember Cluj in the 1990s, which had a very different atmosphere to it than it does now, with back then extreme nationalist, anti-innovation, anti-European mayor. And these things matter a lot. So you need to have local government, preferably national government, and institutions which pull in the same direction. If you just have one institution, one university, that often does not have sufficient, in a certain way, legs or roots to really provide for the infrastructure for people to return. So it's these reform partnerships, a kind of general commitment. And it's not about saying rhetorically we want Europe, we are pro-European, but it's about taking on the challenges, which is about creating accountable government and career advancement based on merit. And then I think also what makes finding ways in which skilled researchers can return is particularly important for the countries for a number of reasons. First of all, it's leading by example. It shows to students who are studying in Serbia, Kosovo, North Macedonia, and the other countries of the region, showing them that people can return, that it's not a one-way street. I think very often the experience for many is that, it's only those who are left behind and then others have left already. But if people encounter scholars who've been educated abroad who are returning, this is in a certain way showing students that it's attractive to return back to the country. So this is why I believe returning researchers to higher education institutions is very important. It also, of course, increases the quality of education because, as the topic of this conference talks about, is the idea of brain circulation, the idea that, of course, foreign educated researchers bring with them ideas for innovation, bring with them new ideas of teaching, and of course, having in fact, this benefits also, Austria, for example, if you have researchers who've been studying, I've been making my career in Britain and in other places, and in the US, others have been in other countries. So just sharing ideas of how to do teaching, how to do research, bringing international networks is beneficial for any country, in any higher education environment, but it's especially for ones which have often don't have these contacts. And of course, when you look at researchers who have been abroad are also usually more successful in bringing in Horizon grants, big competitive EU grants, because they have the networks and the resources. So this is what matters. So the kind of bringing researchers back is useful for showing students the example, but also improving the research. But how to achieve this? And this is, I think, the real question. Now, one element is, of course, through institutional cooperations, and we have that at Graz with universities in Southeastern Europe. So these are partnerships which are based on staff exchanges, research exchanges, student exchanges. So this is one way to address this. There are a number of challenges with it. First of all, it does not really tackle how to get researchers, highly qualified researchers from the countries back to their country of origin, embedded in the academic community. And colleagues often report that they're not always welcomed back home in their country. They're often seen as a threat to their peers. They often are setting certain demands to break patterns of state capture, of nepotism, which make them not very welcome among those who might be comfortable with these arrangements. They might also put a pressure on delivering certain research outcomes, which local researchers who have not been abroad might not be so happy with. So they're often in a difficult position. And cooperation, institutional cooperation, cannot really address that. It can create the mechanisms of mobility, but it cannot really finally resolve it. So I think what is needed is really special tools to allow for researchers to return home and become reintegrated into the academic environment of their home countries. And I think this is where really the main effort should be. And this is something which, of course, at the end of the day is up to the institutions and the higher education ministries in the respective countries. We've had some attempts, which I think one success story was a program in Croatia, which was begun before already Croatia joined the European Union, which had a EU-funded or partially EU-funded project, which both funded outgoing researchers, but more importantly, return researchers to go back to universities in Croatia, often, in fact, not in the capital. In fact, the main criteria was that they would have to go to local, or I should say regional universities, so not in Zagreb, but in places like Split, Dubrovnik, Rijeka, Pula, and so on, which made sure try to also disbalance the interstate and I think this is quite important. We heard this in the previous presentation that many countries, there is also internal migration and brain drain from the countryside to the capital. Romania is in fact an exception in the sense that it has a strong center with Cluj, but this is rather unusual. Most other countries are highly centralized in terms of their higher education. And that often means that there's not much innovation potential and not much research going on outside of the capitals. So this project tried to bring people back, but also try to break this pattern by basically creating additional funds for researchers who would return back home from abroad, having been educated in European, North American universities, and allowing them basically build their career domestically. And it created two things: additional income, and the structures to actually make it attractive to have some academic independence. So it's these kind of programs which I think are really needed to allow for that kind of brain circulation and return of highly qualified researchers to universities in the region.
Thank you, Mr. Bieber. That was a very well-rounded perspective on things, and I actually have a ton of questions regarding that. However, we are very short in time, which is why I would like not to follow up immediately, but give room to our next speaker and see if at all we have time to discuss this at the end of this session. So thank you very much for this interesting perspective. Our next speaker is Mr. Marcić. He is expert on human capital development at the Regional Cooperation Council, which is a very interesting institution. Mr. Marcić, thank you very much for being here. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. This is very intriguing and important topic, and I believe it's one of the key topics for the development and for the future of the region. The previous speakers said, well, many things. However, I'd like to say a few words about what we do, and before I do that, I'd like to start with a personal observation. While listening to your speakers, I tried to calculate how many people I know who left Bosnia and Herzegovina only, because I'm from Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I calculated 24 individuals. Most of these are married, and most of these in their previous life here had pretty decent conditions. They had, all of them literally had good jobs. They could afford to own apartments. However, all of them also, I believe all of them have kids. And when I spoke to them about why they decided to leave, most of them said something that Mr. Bieber just mentioned, encapsulated quite well, but it goes under a single word: hope. Most of those people felt that they can't really hope for the better in this country, but that's pretty much the same around the region. Something that none of your speakers mentioned are basically figures, and I'd like to share this with you. According to Eurostat, around 230,000 people left the region in 2018. This number is even greater for 2019, although the complete figures are not available, as far as I'm aware. And according to some estimates, for example, the Westminster Foundation report from 2018 and 19 say that only in Bosnia and Herzegovina, a single young people who leaves the country will cost Bosnia and Herzegovina up to 21,000 euros. If you look at Serbia, for example, the number of people leaving is also growing, and that could cost up to 1.2 billion euros each year. I'm talking only about young people. Milan previously mentioned, I suppose, cumulative figures, 3 to 4 billion euros, which is massive amount. We're talking about 2 to 4% of GDP for each of the economies in the region. Now, what can be done about this? This is the key question. Mr. Bieber mentioned this in brief. However, it would take probably 20 of these sessions to go into details what can be done. But I believe the key thing is providing favorable environment for those people to stay, and improving the current conditions so as to ensure that some people actually return. We have the massive brain drain. What we have to do is to somehow ignite a brain circulation in the region. And this is something that the Regional Cooperation Council aims to do. Regionally, we are about to propose the new regional action plan for the next 4 years to be endorsed by the Western Balkans leaders in Sofia, the Sofia summit next week. If everything goes okay, we should have lots of work to do in the future. I'd like to share just a few main points relating to our common regional market action plan. The focus of, I mean, it's a very complex document. I can't go into details, but it boils down to 4 major sort of priorities. One is digital transformation. We've seen that during the COVID, that has sort of surfaced as the most important tool for all of us. The second one is skills development, something that your speakers also mentioned before, and businesses are already struggling a lot to find people who can actually support economic development. The third thing is something that relates closely to what the European Union plans to do as part of its Green Deal. We're also going to propose Green Deal for the Western Balkans, and a part of it is green and circular economy. Mr. Veselinov talked about this. It offers immense possibilities. However, very little has been done, at least regionally, in this field. And also, and finally, the most important part from my perspective is more focus on innovation as a very important tool for sustainable economic development. Now, we are lagging behind countries that joined the European Union at a later stage, such as Romania, let alone more developed countries in terms of innovation and research capacities. But the overall idea is to build an attractive ecosystem, both economically, but also to attract young people, bright minds to consider their careers, opening their businesses around the region. And to do so, we're going to need a lot of efforts in the region. We are going to focus within the innovation area on 5 areas. I'd just like to walk you through briefly. The first one, it has to do with supporting regional innovation infrastructure. The second one is to establish a regional innovation fund that would focus on early stage innovation, funding schemes that would support prospective SMEs, innovative companies, innovative initiatives around the region, in particular those targeting common regional issues such as, for example, air pollution, sustainable food production, etc. We also want to work on promoting the importance of women in STEM fields. According to some estimates, in about 5 years, up to 90% of all jobs will be STEM related. Most of the women and girls, unfortunately, are out of STEM fields. So this is something that we plan to work in the future. We already partnered with the UNDP on this. And the last one, which is basically the most important for this particular session, is something we termed as a diaspora knowledge transfer initiative. The idea is to tap into enormous potential of our diaspora. Each of the economies in the Western Balkans has tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of highly skilled individuals living and working abroad, mostly in Western Europe. We'd like to get in touch with them to build the existing or scale the existing initiatives that are in place in economies such as Albania, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Serbia, and see how we can attract them to share their knowledge, share their expertise, and transfer some of those networks of contacts, anything that could be valuable to the region, obviously with the final goal of deepening regional economic cooperation and integration into the European Union's internal market. We work closely with directorates of the European Commission. Mr. Fabianek is going to talk about this later. This is a kind of well-coordinated, synchronized activity. Most of our goals actually follow or closely mimic the goals that the European Union has set for the Western Balkans. So we hope we can actually pull out some tangible results rather than just providing food for thought, as it used to be the case with many previous initiatives. We want to show with our partners that some things can be improved and to attract, in particular, young people to consider staying here or even returning back to the Balkans. Obviously, we have to bear in mind that this is a long process. It cannot be done overnight. To change, social fabric of any society is a very complex process. It may take sometimes even decades to do so, but the sooner we start, the better. And we hope to learn from some of the experiences shared by some of the speakers we had today. From Romania, from Serbia, we want to get them on board and tap into their knowledge as well. So with this, I'd like to close because I know we have only 5 minutes left and Bernhard is patiently waiting. So if we're going to stop at 1300 hours sharp, I'm afraid he won't have much to say. So back to you. Thank you.
Much also for a very comprehensive overview that I have a lot of questions for, but no time, unfortunately. I would like to give the floor, and I would just like to calm you down a little bit. I just got notification that it's okay if we go over time a little bit, if it's also okay for you, so please don't rush through the next 5 minutes. You can take your time. Mr. Fabianek, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being there. It was quite a pleasure listening, because what even Sinisa doesn't know, I'm an honorable citizen of Cluj. I think it was the mayor who, when we were there in 2004, some kind of first European Commission group that went there, they gave us this piece of paper and said, now you're honorable citizen of Cluj. It was at the Technical University we were there. But on the other hand, I haven't heard anything about Iași. Sort of also from there, so there's more to Romania than just Bucharest, the Cluj, I have to say. On the other hand, yes, I'm a migrant. I left Austria, went westwards. My brother went south, at least close to Vienna. Another sister went also westwards. So yeah, migration is something that we all live with, and I was tempted to steer already some discussion by saying, I don't agree with the previous speakers, but I think first I have to go through my official slides that will be shared afterwards. And then I think we can dwell a little bit more on the discussion on how we can properly deal or how we can really make the difference. And as you have said, that we need to put some action and also for the people in the region to show that there is a difference. Now, on the official part, I didn't manage to share my slides, but I've sent them to you, so you will make them available, I guess, on the conference website. So no problem. Yes, there has been a whole range of political statements this year, money being put in the Western Balkans, fighting COVID, doing all great things. Like in Europe, we have structural funds, we have the instrument for pre-accession assistance that is helping the countries. And I have also quite understood what Florian was saying, that sometimes the money is not getting there where it should be. And I think that is where sort of we from the Commission side can make a difference, of course, by having, because all of the region is a candidate or potential candidate for EU membership, they are all sort of doing public administration reforms, all these kind of procedures that I know the University of Graz was driving crazy to get structural funds, that what you have to really fulfill in terms of paperwork and so on. So this is coming, and I would say also more transparency is coming. So probably on the long run, it's getting difficult that corruption will survive very, very well, or sort of as it's entrenched by now. So from that point of view, I hope that with this formal procedure that the Commission is bringing, and the colleagues at the Director General for Enlargement are really hardly working on that, I think there's some progress. Now, what Sinisa has already said, and that is interesting, we have now as a new Commissioner, Maria Gabriel, not from Romania, from Bulgaria, sort of, if you want, also from the region, with a very strong focus on the Western Balkans. And what is also sort of new is that we have a whole she has a broad portfolio ranging from education culture to the Joint Research Center and us as the Director General for Research and Innovation. And she asked all of her services to work together for one strategy, we call it an agenda, for the Western Balkans, sort of to align her troops, if you want, to really deliver something for the Balkans. And some of you have been dealing with public administration. This is quite uncommon because usually everyone has his little kingdom and does whatever they know best and don't really look much beyond the borders. So as Sinisa was saying, we really have managed since the beginning of this year to come up with a document with a strategy, with points and whatever, but that is aligned. that has also been accepted by the colleagues and also working with Sinisa and the countries in the Western Balkans now, a comprehensive, but also a document and actions in there, because we are looking for action, that are achievable. So not some kind of grand promises that everything will be good if you just wait long enough and if you scale up and extrapolate things, it eventually might happen. No, things down on earth with timetables, indicators, deadlines, and who does what, by when, and so on. And we hope that with this, we show also to the region this kind of joint effort from our side, that this can be appreciated then by the actors there. And when I listen to Milan, I mean, this is just fantastic, and he's a very good example. Other examples from Serbia I've heard where people came back and after a few years turned back the country and said, no, it's too difficult to be there, and like the environment doesn't really fit me. So also things like Sinisa was saying, reaching out to the diaspora. And that was interesting when we have seen the European Innovation Scoreboard map, that Portugal was colored the same light green color as Austria was. Sort of a strong innovator, not innovation leader, but the second highest group, which you might not have expected. And I remember Minister Gago at the time was saying, any Portuguese that leaves, migrates, brain drain, is actually still an asset for the country, because they will always stay Portuguese. And therefore, they will always be linked. And that's why reaching out to the diaspora, providing opportunities. And of course, Graz is a center where many of the people from the Western Balkans have been studying, so that this also then flows back, or at least if they stay outside, that the linkages help when we talk about Horizon Europe or Horizon 2020 multi-party projects, that you could have a participant from Graz, but with Balkan original, that works together with stakeholders in the Western Balkans to create a consortium, to do great research. So, and this way we then can help and want to provide the means in the countries. And in very concrete terms, we will have a specific twinning call in next year already foreseen, that will link Western Balkan universities with European universities to help them, this model that was just mentioned before, that you have outgoing researchers, but also incoming ones to upgrade departments, to have them mentored by Western European ones, but to pour money into the university departments in the Western Balkans so that they can act stronger and sort of, I wouldn't say be more competitive, but provide an environment that also helps the local students and provides the skill base. And that comes into the next stage from Sinisa's drivers, that we want to develop these skills so that the industry or academia business cooperation can benefit from what is delivered. And that was what Ion-Gheorghe has said, in Cluj is happening so much. So that at the very end, you create an overall economic environment driven by innovation that sort of helps automatically to fight the brain drain, because people have a perspective in the future locally and see that things are growing. And this is actually what sort of this kind of agenda that we have for the Western Balkans is a huge title. The short name is an innovation agenda for the Western Balkans. And we'll try also to put money, yes, because money always helps, but also in a way by having several actors, and then comes back to the alignment that is from our side. But we want also to have the member states, European Union member states, but also the Western Balkans on their side. And there we have the colleagues from the Joint Research Center, third element of Maria Gabriel's portfolio, that with smart specialization strategies help the countries in the Western Balkans to prioritize. And in a transparent process that is now UN acknowledged and so on. And yes, for the European ones, this is smart specialization strategies are something very common to get structural funds. It's an intrinsic process. It's very new for the Western Balkans. But in this prioritization process, you also try to reflect what are your local strengths and what can we achieve? Where do you want to put your bets for the future? And there we need the skill base, and there we need the universities and academia to help. And yes, of course, Green Deal, digital transformation. These are the main drivers. And I would say it's also an opportunity for the Balkans because we have often a green field situation, especially when it comes to climate change, air pollution. There's even a huge demand that the Western Balkans need to act. But when it comes to food supply, something that now with the COVID pandemic, we certainly realized that food supply is something, a scarcity in Europe, and that the Balkan could help there, but also with innovative things, with green food. So from that point of view, there's plenty of opportunities. And when it comes to infrastructures, sort of upgrading the Balkans, you can immediately go to the very newest technologies, being it fiber optics, 5Gs, and whatever. Therefore, offering for the businesses to really be at the forefront of technology and therefore delivering top-notch services, whatever it is. And I think that is also a strategy the Cluj has been running, leapfrogging and then playing. Because I remember when we were there in the early 2000s, the story was, yes, as soon as we have trained lecturers, university professors, they go and teach in Ireland because we had an English program. So from that, we hope that these Irish people have in the meantime come back and found that Cluj is an attractive place. So thanks so much from my side. Please look at the slides. They also have some nice graphics, shows who cooperates with whom, to give you a little bit of a background for the people interested, and also how much money goes where in which area. But that is something you can read afterwards. Thanks a lot. I'm happy to discuss now.
Thank you, Mr. Fabianek. Seeing as we only have 8 minutes at the most left, then we really need to cut this off. I would like to proceed as follows. I would like to sum up what I have learned from this session with my final statement, and then I would like to give each of you a minute to add to my conclusion, to what I have overseen or not grasped correctly. And this is very, very basic, what I'm going to say. So I understood from all of you that what is needed is that we create favorable conditions for people to stay as a basic. I mean, we have the diagnosis, I think we're clear on that. So we need to create favorable conditions. And we can do this by creating reform partnerships in an interplay of top-down and bottom-up approaches. So top-down in the form of policymaking that will provide structures, infrastructures, funding, and strategic directions, and bottom-up by the crowd that, like Mr. Veselinov, creates innovation communities, or Mr. Gheorghe Petrovai. It's an interplay.
John is okay.
John.
John.
I'm sorry.
John.
You know, it's. So it's an interplay of these two things. The crowd needs to move, but the crowd needs to be enabled to move as well. And like that, we can create these reform partnerships across sectors. It's very basic. I said that. So why don't we start in the same order of adding to that? The speakers. So Mr. Veselinov, please.
Thank you very much. I would just everything that Professor Bieber had told, really happening. Everything, and everything that Mr. Marcić said is something that is really important. That we create cooperative dialogue on how to move further in many areas. I know that we had a couple of discussions in circular economy, but it could be a pivot point. But in many areas, we have to collaborate in the future. And everything that Mr. Fabianek said is really important in order to motivate the internal resources of every country, making synergetic effect in the places that we can contribute in a best possible way. So if we're mentioning food, that doesn't mean that we should produce only grain. It means that we should produce a highly efficient, innovative products that are capable of bringing as highest value as possible. And with this, with all the conditions that the Professor Bieber said, currently is really hardly possible, but we are trying to bring this bottom-up and top-down solutions in order to do this. So my email and my contacts, I would really like to continue this dialogue and discussion. And formulate some of future processes in progress in that regard. And thank you very much. It was an eye-opening and a confirmation about many things that I was thinking about. Thanks for this.
Thank you. Okay, next one in line, John.
Well, it's all about people. It's all about finding the good people and helping them, helping other people. It all stays with this, and I think that everybody touched this from their personal and from a countrywide culturally point of view. Thank you for Mr. Fabianek for speaking, saying Cluj more than I did. It's I owe you something. I don't know what, but drop by in Cluj and we'll find a way. And anyway, if anybody of you wants to do things in terms of healthcare innovation, we can share our experience and we can give a hand. And it's about helping people grow whatever they have. And we have plenty of things to grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next in line, Mr. Bieber.
Yes, I don't want to add much to what I've said before. I think it's nice that what Ion-Gheorghe said is the idea of people. I mean, it's also taking the reasons why people are leaving seriously. I think that's very important. It's not just assuming that they just want to run away from money, but taking it seriously and really trying to understand and trying to sort of take their worries and fears at face value and trying to address them. And for the Western Balkans, of course, one thing is clear. I mean, EU integration of the region is essential in that process. Of course, it doesn't mean that people will stop moving. In fact, more people have moved from Romania and Bulgaria to EU countries than from the countries of the Western Balkans because it's easier. But it's also something which it's easier to come back. And I think we also have to assume that people will, might come back, and that also people are not in one place at one time only. I mean, what we look at, a lot of people are between two places. We also have to see that is what is the opportunities for people who are in Graz, but also go back to Bihać, or who are in Cluj, but also spend time in Italy. I mean, people are often quite mobile in normal times, not in pandemic times. So they're not necessarily in one place at any given point in time. And I think we also have to recognize that kind of permanence of being in multiple places.
Thank you very much. Next in line, Mr. Marcić.
Well, thank you very much. This was a rather interesting session. I'd like to wrap up with two short conclusions. One of them is COVID-19. We haven't said a lot about it. I believe it's a huge challenge for the entire world, but it's also a great opportunity for all of us. We live literally now in a game-changing situation, and it's up to us to either embrace the new changes that are, swallowing us, or stay on the margins. The second thing has to do with, I believe, role models, with good stories, positive stories. If the Western Balkan as the region, but not necessarily the entire region, it could be a single economy or just a city, could send more positive messages out to the world. I believe that could galvanize the positivity around, in the minds of, in particular, young people. Take, for example, IT sector that has, blossomed over the last 5 or 10 years in the region, and many young people are considering careers in the IT, which is a good thing. However, it's one isolated field, one isolated industry. We need to spread this to other industries like circular and green economy. There's immense potential in those fields, and build on these positive and good stories. And yes, it's about people who, leaders who are capable of making new leaders. So let's work on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Mr. Fabianek.
Yeah, I want to negate the title of the session, actually, because my commissioner doesn't like the term brain drain. Actually, she wants to call it unlocking regional talent and regional potential. That's what we want to achieve. And I think that also summarizes nicely where we want to get to, what we are here to help for.
Thank you very much for this last comments, for your contributions. I think this was a really highly interesting dialogue that we've had here, and we will work on continuing this dialogue, and we'll most likely certainly reach out to you to continue this dialogue and stay connected. So thank you very much for this session, and I would like to hand it back over now to my colleague Anna Maya. Thank you very much, and have a great day.